Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming from right here on my YouTube channel. I am, of course, your host, John Campea, and it is an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, our international friends, gather around and talk about our favorite things in the world, movies, movie news, TV, streaming, and all sorts of good stuff. And ladies and gentlemen, he is that delicious pudding dessert of all good things, Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. Robert, how you doing today, sir?
John, I'm doing fantastically well on this Memorial Day. You know, I think of my dad on Memorial Day. He served in World War II. He's no longer with us, but he once met Douglas MacArthur on an airplane.
You told me about that once. That's who I met kind of story. That's a good one right there. Listen, guys, I am in a little bit, Rob, I'm going through a little bit of a rough patch. Because, you know, I don't talk hockey very much on here because I know outside of Canada, not many of our international friends, particularly Americans, care all that much about hockey. But I bleed blue and white of the Toronto Maple Leafs. And the Toronto Maple Leafs in my entire lifetime, the entire time I've been on this earth, Rob, the Toronto Maple Leafs have never even been to the Stanley Cup Finals. Like, never even been to the finals in my entire lifetime. And this year, everything looks good, Rob. They're winning lots of games, big high seed in the playoffs. They're leading their first-round series against their arch rivals, the Montreal Canadiens. They're leading the series 3-1. Then they lose. Okay, they're still leading 3-2. And then they're playing another game. The last game they're playing goes to overtime. All Toronto's got to do is score one goal, and they move on. They lose in overtime, and all of a sudden the series is tied 3-3. And once again, my Toronto Maple Leafs suck. So you got to understand, it affects my sense of worth, Rob. That's how much I love the Maple Leafs. Them sucking affects my sense of worth.
Perhaps they're all just good Canadian kids, and they're too nice. They're too nice on the ice. They don't brawl enough. They don't high stick enough. They don't get away with enough shenanigans.
That is Canadian.
Maybe they're just too nice.
That's all Canadian. Everything you just said is Canadian on the ice. That's where, I don't know, I'm very, very upset about that. And then I went to a Laker game yesterday. Ann and I went to our first Lakers game yesterday that we've been to in over a year. And they lose. Antonio Davis goes out. Anthony Davis goes out. I don't know why I said Antonio. They lose. So yeah, not a good couple of days for me sports-wise, Rob. Not a good couple of days for me sports-wise.
I'm sorry about that, John.
But I'll recover. You know why? Because we got some movie stuff to talk about here. Guys, it is awesome to have you here today. And here's how today's show is going to go. We're going to start off the show by taking a bunch of predetermined topics in the first half of the show. And then we're going to move into the second half of the show where we take your live comments and questions. If you want to send in a live comment or question for the second half of the show, simply go down into the comments or into the description of this video. You'll see a tip link. Click on that there, or you can enter it in manually at www.streamelements.com/movieblogtv/tip. You'll be getting your comment or question on the show if it's appropriate for the show. And of course, you'll be supporting this channel at the same time. And all of us involved here with the show, thank you guys very, very much for not just being here, but also for your support. Okay, guys, with all that down, let's get into our main topics today. And how do we select our main topics here on the John Campea Show? Well, it's really rather simple. You see, you guys come up with our main topics. Whenever you come across a big topic, issue, or story that you think we should have as a main topic on the John Campea Show, just go anytime 24/7 over to www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. Once you guys get there, you're going to see a form. Fill it out with your topic or question. It's totally free. Hit submit, and then maybe, just maybe, you might see your submission featured as a main topic here on the John Campea Show. With that down, Rob, what is our first main topic today?
Well, our first main topic comes to us from Fence Halliman. Hello, John and Rob. It's always sad to me when someone who is really talented throws their career away, and that looks like what's happening to Armie Hammer. Anyway, did you see that Miles Teller has now officially replaced Hammer in the making of the Godfather series coming to Paramount? I think the series is called The Offer. Anyway, I wanted to know what you thought on the move, and do you think Teller will do a good job? Good job. Well, John, Variety says this. Miles Teller producer Al Ruddy in the upcoming Paramount Plus series The Offer, which, by the way, I can't wait for, which details the behind-the-scenes story of the making of The Godfather. Teller takes over the role from Armie Hammer, whose exit from the series was exclusively reported by Variety in January amid sexual misconduct allegations. The Offer will tell the story of Ruddy's experience as a producer on The Godfather back in 1972. Paramount Plus has given the limited series a 10-episode order. Well, John, first, I have to say I really like the idea that this series is going to be longer than The Godfather itself. That's kind of cool. But I really can't wait for this show. And unfortunately, I'm a big Armie Hammer fan. I think I really became a fan of his when I saw The Social Network. I thought he was terrific in that. And of course, he's done a lot of great roles, but he's never really broken through, I think, the way he probably should have. He was great as Ilya Kuryakin in Man from U.N.C.L.E., and he's had a lot of great roles and supporting roles in a lot of great things, been part of great ensemble casts. But, I got to say, wacky stuff going on with him. But I love Miles Teller. Ever since I saw Whiplash, the movies that he's been in, I've been a big fan of his as an actor. And I got to tell you, one of the things that I think they did right, Paramount did right. They obviously like him over at Paramount because he's playing Goose's son in Top Gun Maverick. And, in a studio, when the casting people at the studio like an actor, they tend to bring them back over and over again for various projects. So it doesn't surprise me that Miles Teller is in this series. And I think I like the fact that we're now seeing movie stars go between movies and these long form series. As I said, I loved Kate Winslet in Mare of Easttown. I think she's going to win an Emmy, and I'm pretty excited for all this. And I think they made a good choice. What do you think?
Yeah, well, like you said, the idea of this show is fantastic. The behind the scenes story of how The Godfather came to be, how that movie came to be. You and I are both suckers for the true Hollywood story behind the scenes of how a movie got made kind of stuff. We love this stuff.
Yep.
And for them to do it on what some people say might be the greatest film of all time is kind of an idea. You're right. The thing about Armie Hammer, for me, first of all, yeah, I loved him absolutely in The Social Network. I didn't even know until weeks after I saw the film that he was one guy. I really thought they had twins. I really thought it was twins. What does he say? I'm 6'2", 230 pounds, and there's two of me, or something along those lines.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But that's obviously where I really took notice of him. But it was what his true, real coming out party was that movie he did with, I believe it was Timothée Chalamet, Call Me By Your Name. Where, if I'm not mistaken, I believe he got an Academy Award nomination for that. And ever since, he's just kind of showing, of course, you mentioned Man from U.N.C.L.E. and stuff like that. He's a great actor, but if you're the studio and you're trying to make a movie that you're going to invest, or you're trying to make a show that you're probably going to invest at minimum the tens, maybe into the hundreds of millions of dollars, you can't have the off-camera shenanigans of one of your actors being the main headline story and distracting from your show. And who knows what's going to come out a little bit later on. And it's just not good business for you to continue to use them. Now, look, as a fan of Armie Hammer, I hope that it turns out that none of these accusations are true. And I hope that comes to light. And I hope that's what it is. But if you're the studio financing this, you can't just sit down, cross your fingers, and hope. You've got to do what's best for your project. And what's best for their project right now is to take the distraction out, which is Armie Hammer, unfortunately. But you got to take him out and you got to get somebody else. Rob, I've been saying forever, people sleep on Miles Teller. This dude, now if you want to hear real testimony, Rob, you and I have talked about this before. Listen to J.K. Simmons talk about how good of an actor Miles Teller is. Because Simmons has said ad nauseum many times, dude, I don't win that Oscar that I won for Whiplash if it wasn't for Miles Teller. Miles Teller, he hasn't always been in the best projects. Granted, by the way, Dank Review sends in a super chat badge in the live chat. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. I mean, he's not always in the best projects, but he is a fantastic actor. And that's why Tom Cruise wants him in there. That's why a lot of people lining up. And you know what? I think this is going to work really well. I am excited for this show as well. I'm excited to see what they do with this. I just want to see the show. And listen, all I usually care about is talent. They went out and got a guy who is extremely talented to replace another guy who is also extremely talented. So I think it turns out to be a very good wash. I think it's going to be great. I can't wait to see this thing. Question is for you guys. What do you think about this? First of all, what do you even think about the idea of this 10-episode show chronicling how the Godfather, the movie, came to be? I love it. And what do you think about, hey, listen, if they can't be Armie Hammer, what do you think about Miles Teller taking over the role? Whatever you guys think, jump on down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Okay, guys. With that down, let's move on to main topic number 2, shall we? And our second main topic today gets submitted to us by Samuel Pole, who writes, A Quiet Place Part 2 opened with over $46 million. I actually think it was a little bit higher than that. This weekend, only $4 million short of the first movie, despite having limited theatrical capacity in most markets. Cruella did not impress that much, although it did exceed their expectations. Cruella did not impress that much, earning less than $30 million for the 4-day weekend. Do you think Cruella's numbers will make Disney change their strategy for Black Widow? No, absolutely not. And what are your thoughts on the box office as a whole? All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And yeah, listen, you guys saw my review. I did my quick out of the theater review of A Quiet Place Part 2. You guys know it was my number 1 most anticipated movie of this year because the first one was my number 1 movie of the year of 2018. And this movie does not disappoint. It's awesome. It's a fabulous time. John Krasinski does it again. And, you know, he just made an absolutely killer, maybe even superior sequel to the original, which doesn't happen all that much. But how are people going to respond? Are people going to come out and see it? Well, the answer to that, Rob, is a resounding yes. This comes to us from the folks over at Box Office Mojo, who writes, winning the holiday weekend by far was the John Krasinski-directed follow-up to 2018 surprise horror hit A Quiet Place. The eagerly anticipated sequel scared up $48.4 million in the 3-day window between Friday and Sunday. Estimates for the PG-13 film's 4-day haul puts it in North American receipts at around $58.5 million. The previous record holder for this post-pandemic box office era was Warner Brothers' Godzilla vs. Kong, which bowed with $32 million back in March of 2021. And you guys remember how big of a deal that was, that it made $32 million. In the runner-up spot was Disney's Cruella, an origin story starring Emma Stone about the rise of the 101 Dalmatians puppy-hating villain Cruella de Vil. The PG-13 rated film also came out of the gate to solid numbers, despite being available on Disney Plus for an additional $30 fee. Cruella pulled in $21.3 million in the first 3 days of the long weekend. All right, so that comes us from the folks over at Box Office Mojo. And here's the thing about this, Rob. This is outstanding numbers.
Yeah.
Like, when you especially consider the fact that, number one, there is still limited capacity seating. Number two, there is still a good chunk of the movie-going audience that is not yet ready to go back to the movie theaters. And number three, and this is one I don't hear anybody talking about, Rob, don't underestimate how big of a negative impact delay after delay after delay can have. This was a movie that was supposed to come out over a year ago. And so a lot of energy can be dropped over time as it's pushed and then pushed again and then pushed again. And yet, despite all of that, limited theatrical capacity, a lot of people still not ready to go back to the movies yet. The fact that it faced delay after delay after delay, and it kind of got lost a little bit in the wash. This thing still basically made the same amount of money in its opening weekend that the first one did, shattering the Godzilla vs. Kong numbers.
Yeah. By
$16 million, it shadowed those numbers. So, I mean, that's huge. That's impressive. This is great. Box Office Mojo was writing it as you could hear all of Hollywood taking a deep sigh of relief seeing that. And as far as Cruella, look, the reality is a lot of people were not expecting Cruella to do great. And I'm a big fan of Disney movies, Rob, going into Cruella. Now, listen, I liked Cruella a lot. I think Cruella's quite good. I think it's not a top 10 movie of the year candidate, but it's quite a good movie. And I enjoyed it. But I was not super stoked for it going into it. And Rob, I never really sensed from many people. And by the way, Skylar Hillman sends in a super chat badge in the live chat. Thank you, Skylar. I never sensed a lot of people being super excited about it. I just didn't. And, for it to still come out and make in its opening 3-day weekend over $21 million at the box office, where it faced all the same problems that A Quiet Place did, plus it was having to face off against Quiet Place, plus it was also available online if people wanted to watch it there. And by the way, I heard the premium subscription numbers for Cruella were not good. Let's just say a little birdie told me the initial numbers are not good. But at any rate, so their expectations for what Cruella could do at the box office was actually relatively low. And these numbers actually exceeded that. So they said this is the first weekend. I forget the number. Box Office Mojo said this is the first weekend the box office had $100 million weekend in a long time. And so, Rob, there's no other way to look at this, particularly if you're John Krasinski and the people behind, even if you're Michael Bay. People forget Michael Bay is a producer on these movies. If you're Michael Bay and John Krasinski and the other people behind Quiet Place and everybody else, this is a great weekend for them. Couldn't have happened to a better movie. And you know what? The word of mouth on Quiet Place 2 is going to be strong. I expect it to see less than a 60% drop for next weekend. Just good things all around, Rob. Couldn't have happened to a better movie. I'm thrilled. Rob, you're hearing these numbers. You're seeing these things. We were ecstatic when Godzilla vs. Kong cracked 30. Now we got something getting close to cracking 50. If you take the long holiday weekend in as well, it's almost $60 million. What are your thoughts? What's attributed to it having this kind of success right now? What do you think it means for the industry overall?
Well, I think one, Quiet Place is a movie that was very well liked when it came out, first of all. And then the anticipation for the sequel, you've got the same creative team coming back. I mean, obviously Krasinski isn't in the movie the way he was in the first movie, but same creative team. He's directing again. And I just think that it delivers. It was a movie that really, for as far as sequels go, I mean, maybe in 10 years, people will think of it as one of the great sequels ever made, really, that it really delivers the goods and it delivered on the promise of the first movie. And I think it's a great movie. And so that's what makes people go to the theater. And I think people are excited about it. It's definitely a movie that benefits from a theatrical experience with an audience because of the nature of the film. And I think, people are itching to get out of the house. And this was something that it shows, John, when you have a movie that people want to turn up for, they will. And same with Cruella, really. I mean, I was really impressed with the marketing. I haven't seen Cruella. I think the marketing of the film has been great. It really made me want to see it. And I think this is great. It really bodes well for all the other movies we have coming out for the rest of the year. I don't think that anyone's going to shy away from theatrical releases, assuming our COVID cases continue to go down. So I think it's great. It's great for everybody. All the way, audiences, the studios, the filmmakers themselves. It's just a great thing.
And man, as great as everybody's feeling about it right now, can you imagine the air? You would have been audibly been able to hear the air coming out of Hollywood's tires if like Quiet Place came out at like 25 million and Cruella came in around where they were kind of expecting it lower. I don't know, maybe like 15 or 10. It's like, ooh, like these are ones people were particularly A Quiet Place was one, but it exceeded expectations and it's great. And by the way, Skylar Hillman sends in another super chat badge in the live chat. Thank you, Skylar.
But you know what I think is also great? I think there's a general overall excitement about entertainment again, even on platforms such as streaming. We heard that HBO, their service went out last night with everybody trying to stream Mare of Easttown. And that was, again, great quality programming. And when we have great entertainment, whether it's, I think it feeds off of itself. If people are watching things and they're satisfied, whether they're in theaters or whether they're new streaming series, it gives an overall excitement about entertainment in general. And I think that's what this weekend shows us, is that you have two very different movies and people are excited to be entertained again. And they've forgotten that, like, my God, that movies can be great, that there is magic. And when you see even a great streaming series, I mean, now it's everybody's home. That's what they were doing, watching things. But when there's appointment television going on, it means people are engaged, and they're not just engaged from the streaming shows, they're engaged by everything.
Mm.
And I think we're going to see more and more and more of that, and it's just going to help the industry overall. That it's no longer a slog, like I'm sick of being home, so I'll just watch something. It's no. I'm genuinely excited to watch this particular thing, and I think it's great. I think it's great.
You know what's not great, though? That even though Cruella did a little bit better than expected, the reality is this. Disney is going to take a bath on Cruella.
Yeah.
Because there are some reports going around out there that they spent $200 million. That's not the case. They didn't spend $200 million, but they spent a hell of a lot. What I actually heard was the number was around $175 million. Now, I don't know that officially for sure, but there's no way.
It's pricey.
There's no way they're breaking even on this movie. But Rob,
right.
There was no way. I could have told you the day they announced they were doing this movie that there was no way they're going to break even on Cruella. There's just not a chance. Like, you're talking about a character who skins puppies. Like, nobody,
right.
There was not a lot of people were down with the idea. It's like, it's an interesting concept. But from the day that I saw them talking about a D23, I never heard anybody buzzing about it, whatever. This was one that was going to take a bath regardless. So it's going to be, it's too bad because it's actually a pretty damn good movie. And Emma Stone is fantastic in it. But hey, It is what it is. Question is for you guys. What do you think about these numbers for A Quiet Place and the box office as a whole? The entire industry is kind of celebrating right now, seeing some life being breathed back in. Did you guys like the numbers? Have you even seen either of these movies? If so, what did you think? Jump on down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Okay, guys. With that down, let's move on to main topic number 3, shall we? Rob, what is our third main topic today?
Well, John, Agent Cajun writes to us and says, recently it was announced that AMC, Regal, Cinemark, they're ceasing the requirement for wearing masks. Since the United States has yet to reach herd immunity for COVID-19, is it premature to lessen restrictions? I think this is going to open more opportunities for super spreader events. What are your thoughts? Well, Variety weighs in on this and says, movie theater chains, including AMC, Regal, and Cinemark, will no longer require fully vaccinated guests to wear face masks. In line with CDC guidelines, masks will be optional for inoculated patrons and will be strongly encouraged for all others. For non-vaccinated customers, masks can be removed when eating and drinking inside the auditorium. All employees at AMC, Regal, and Cinemark locations will still be required to sport a face mask. Cinema chains are continuing to enforce other COVID-19 safety measures like social distancing and reduced capacity, as well as enhanced cleaning sanitation protocols to help stop the spread of the virus. John, for me, I'm still going to wear a mask, and yes, I might let it dangle off one of my ears as I eat popcorn or drink. But I think for me personally, I'm going to continue to wear masks. But as people become more and more vaccinated, I think we're going to see a lot of things opening up. And as they said, they're going to continue safety protocols and they're going to continue these sanitization protocols, which I think is good. We haven't really heard of movie theaters ever being ground zero or the source of a super spreader event, which I think speaks to how our movie theater chains have been taking this threat seriously. I certainly felt when we went and saw Fast 9, that I felt the way it was being handled. I don't know. I mean, the way they separated us, the way you got your food and your drinks, I felt that they really were taking it seriously, and I felt safe going back. That was the first time, going, and I felt the same way when I saw Army the Dead at the Chinese. I felt that these movie theaters are doing their part. And I certainly will go back. I'm still going to wear a mask for myself, but I understand why they're relaxing these things. I mean, a lot of us, especially here in California, are vaccinated. You're vaccinated, so am I. And we've got to open up at some point. And I think this is movie theaters are doing it the right way. What do you think?
It's interesting. Do I feel that maybe it's a little premature? Yeah, I maybe feel it might be a little premature, but not so drastically that I'm alarmed by this. Like, again, we are seeing bigger and bigger numbers, more and more intelligent people going out there getting vaccinated. So like in California, we're seeing the numbers continuously drop. It's good. maybe it is time to take that next step. I am with you though, Rob, in the sense that I am going to continue to wear a mask to a movie theater, not because I need it. I don't. I'm vaccinated. I'm going to just because I want to make sure other people around me feel comfortable. That's it. I don't think other people need to do that. I'm just saying for me. I'm not saying you're an asshole if you don't do that. No. I'm just saying for me. I'm going to continue to do that. And I'll take the mask off when I'm eating popcorn. And then maybe in a few weeks, I'll stop doing it.
Yeah, I agree.
Overall. So I don't mind it, Rob. I don't mind it. Do I feel it's a little premature? Yes. Do I mind it? Not terribly. No, I look, we got to start continuing to go down this direction as long as the numbers keep suggesting that it's appropriate to do so. The one big thing that I have not seen any of the outlets talk about, and the one big thing that stands out to me in the sense of we are not going to require those who have been vaccinated to wear masks, which is implying they are still going to require those who have not been vaccinated to wear masks. That's fair. How the hell are they going to know who was vaccinated and who wasn't? Are they going to now make it the mandate of the 17-year-old kid who works at the front, taking tickets at the movie theaters to say, papers, please? Show us your papers. That's a terrible Nazi image. I don't know why I did that. But is that what they're going to do at the front? Are you going to put that responsibility on the shoulders of a 17-year-old kid? So look, again, I don't mind it. So it's fine. I'm just wondering, you're saying you're going to do one thing, but how are you actually going to enforce that? Which is fine. Look, Rob, to me, though, the bigger story here is not that, they're going to let vaccinated people not wear masks and they're still going to maintain all the other guidelines because most states are going to require those other guidelines for now. The bigger story for me, though, is this. It's yet another sign that we are heading out of the darkness that was the year of Satan's nutsack 2020. We are heading in that direction. We talked a little bit earlier about the box office results for the weekend, topping over $100 million with A Quiet Place Part 2, in the long weekend, getting close to $60 million for an opening weekend. Positive signs. So yeah, I'll still for the next couple of weeks, I'll probably still wear my mask there just to make other people feel comfortable, even though I don't need to. But it's good to see we are heading in that direction. In California here, Rob, I believe in like 2 weeks, they're lifting the mask restrictions for the entire state.
Yeah,
so,
I think, the 15th.
Yeah, so I mean, it's just good to see that we're heading in certain directions, and it'll be nice to get this all put behind us. Question is for you guys. What do you think about this move by the theater saying that people who've been vaccinated, we're not going to require masks? I have no idea how the hell they're going to tell who was vaccinated and who wasn't, but at least it's a good move. Maybe you feel it's a little premature. Maybe you don't. Whatever you guys think, jump down into the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. Okay, guys. With that down, let's move on to main topic number 4. And our fourth main topic today gets submitted to us by Marcus. And Marcus writes, "Hey, John, love all the work that you do. Thank you so much, Marcus. The president of Sony Pictures had an interview with Variety and had some pretty interesting things to say involving Spider-Man, most notably saying that they do in fact have a concrete plan for merging Spidey with their films and even teasing that Spidey may have some involvement in Venom 2. What do you make of this?" All right, thanks a lot for saying that in, Marcus. And yeah, listen, Rob, this has been a debate and discussion, speculation, everything for years. Are we going to see Spider-Man in the Sony Spider-Verse films? Are we ever going to see him pop up in films like Venom or Morbius or Craven and, Madam Web and, all the other ones that they have coming on, whichever it is, the one that's, why am I forgetting the girl who just divorced Ted Lasso, the girl who just divorced Jason Sudeikis?
Olivia Wilde.
Olivia Wilde is directing, one that's coming, which I'm very excited about, by the way. She's a terrific director. But the question has been, what's going on with this? And we also know, Rob, that the upcoming project of Spider-Man Far From Home is technically the final film in the deal between Sony and Marvel for them to co-produce and co-make and produce and then distribute Spider-Man films together. It's the final one. This is the last one they have in their deal. So what's going on? Well, what is interesting here is that the president of Sony Pictures Movie Group did do a little bit of an interview, and he said some interesting things. Actually, he said a lot of interesting things. Let's look at one thing in particular he said. And by the way, Skylar Hillman sends in a super chat badge in live chat. Thanks, Skylar. He says the following. But Panich, that's the president. Panich is the president of Sony Pictures Movie Group, makes a point of separating Spidey from its other superhero titles. We don't really think of our 900 characters as the Spideyverse, he says. We have a Marvel universe. The volume of characters we have, wait until you see the next Venom. Oh my God, there's stuff there to unpack by itself. We have over 900 characters. Wait till you see the next Venom. You don't miss Spider-Man. He pauses. It'll be exciting if they do meet, right? Says the president of Sony. There actually is a plan, he says. I think now maybe it's getting a little bit more clear for people where we're headed. And I think when No Way Home comes out, even more will be revealed. Again, a couple of things. We have tons of characters. Wait until you see Venom. But when you see Venom 2, you'll know that we don't need Spider-Man. But it would be pretty exciting if they met, right? And yes, we do have a plan. Everybody's already starting to figure it out, but it's going to become really clear after No Way Home, says the president of the Sony Pictures Movie Group. All right. There's a lot here to unpack, Rob. There's a lot. And, he goes on, he talks about how great Kevin Feige is and how great Kevin Feige has done with the characters and that he even kind of, I think reading the interview, Rob, he even kind of implies that, hey, even when we make our own films, Kevin might be involved a little bit. I don't know. There seemed to be a little bit of an implication there. We won't read too much into that. But he does drop little hints. Could Spidey show up in Venom 2? I mean, it'd be great if they met, though, right? He says with a chuckle. And we do have a plan moving forward. And of course, again, as we mentioned a little bit earlier, Rob, it is significant that he mentioned No Way Home, because No Way Home is the last film in their deal. So it presents us with a couple of options. Option number one is that they're about to announce a brand new deal, that Marvel and Sony are re-upping with each other, and they're going to extend this deal even more. And for the time being, Sony's Spideyverse movies and the Marvel Cinematic Universe are going to inhabit the same reality, and they're all going to inhabit the same world. That is one interpretation. Another interpretation, which a number of industry professionals are kind of going with, is that Sony has just basically laid it out. Yeah, we did sign an extension, and it ends with No Way Home. And you guys have seen that we've been dropping Michael Keaton in our trailers for Morbius, and you've been kind of getting a sense, but we've got a plan for using Spider-Man once that deal is done. Because remember, once that deal is done, Spider-Man goes back to Sony. Sony, who has made some of the greatest comic book movies ever with Spider-Man. The first Spider-Man, the second Spider-Man, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. There was Spider-Man 3. I love the first Amazing Spider-Man, but there was the second Amazing Spider-Man. But they have made some fabulous movies, all this kind of stuff. Rob, listen, it is impossible to say anything definitive about what we can take from those comments. But I believe it is clear he is at least, maybe misleadingly, but he is dropping hints that they do have plans for Spider-Man post No Way Home, that maybe we could see, because Rob, I remember you thought Spider-Man was going to show up in the first Venom. I remember you thought Spider-Man was going to make it, and a lot of people did. But maybe now it's
Venom 2. I said on this show that I thought for sure he was going to show up in Venom 2, at least maybe even in a post-credit scene.
And you may have been right. I mean, now that he's dropping a little thing, again, doesn't mean anything, could just being misdirect, all that kind of stuff. Rob, there's so much to unpack in the little that he said. What things stood out to you the most, and where do you think his kind of implications were leading us to? What are your thoughts?
Well, I think it's a natural thing that the Sony Spider-Verse and the MCU are connected. I think that was an inevitability because, and I also believe that Marvel and Sony will continue to share Spider-Man with other movies. I mean, I do think that Spider-Man will continue to be in the MCU because it only strengthens both universes. But we've got, people forget it's not just the new Venom movie that's coming out, it's Morbius as well. And so they have 2 Spider-Verse movies coming out, and 3 if you include Into the Spider-Verse, the sequel to that.
And then they got Aaron Taylor Johnson playing Craven the Hunter now.
Yes, and Craven the Hunter. So they're putting together a what could be a great Sinister Six. I still believe, and I have no basis to understand this at all, but if in fact there is a multiverse, it would not surprise me to see Tom Holland's animated Peter Parker, like doing in the middle of Spider-Man No Way Home, that they do an animation segment where there's a multiverse crossover with Into the Spider-Verse. So you would see a version of Tom Holland's Spider-Man interact with animated Miles Morales. I don't know. That's just something I would love to see because, John, a Spider-Man can do whatever a spider can. He spins a web and he sighs. He catches thieves just like flies. Look out, here comes Spider-Man. And I think that means Spider-Man can be anywhere, John, anywhere at all. And I think that it would behoove them. Look at Carnage. Well, Venom and Carnage are set in San Francisco. I don't know where Morbius is, New York maybe, but we really haven't gone to the West Coast in the MCU other than with Captain Marvel. And I think that there's no reason you could bring San Francisco into the MCU and suddenly Venom and Carnage are there. There's no reason to say that why would we know? Like, nobody knows. The Avengers don't know everything that's going around the planet. And I think we're going to see that. That's what I believe. I think they're going to combine these 2 universes, and Kevin Feige is going to be the fulcrum between both of them. They're going to share Spider-Man himself, and yet they're going to be building up a Spider-Man rogues gallery that we might even see spill over into the MCU. Who knows?
Of course, the big complication with that comes with, okay, so what happens to your franchises when you no longer have a deal? Like if they decided, if Marvel and Sony decided that we're all going to habit the same universe. So Sony making their Morbius, Craven, Venom, Madam Web, whatever movies, they're also going to be living in the same universe. So what's going to happen though, if in 4 years, Sony and Marvel end their deal? Do they just pretend like the characters from the other universes don't exist? It could be problematic.
I think they're going to keep a deal going. Because look, the fact that people forget all the time, I forget that Sony still distributes the Spider-Man movies. They're essentially still Sony movies,
yes,
and
they
yet
are.
They're part of the MCU. So and this has been a very lucrative, a good deal. There's no reason. I mean, I don't think, sure, if Sony were to make their own standalone Spider-Man movies, I think that would be fine as well. But if Spider-Man can come back, because if you look, coming up, we've got 4 other than Spider-Man. 3. You've got Eternals, Black Widow, and Shang-Chi coming out. Spider-Man isn't in those, and then we've got, of course, No Way Home coming out in December. That's a Sony release, part of the MCU. Then they can make 4 or 5 more Marvel movies or 10 Marvel movies. We don't necessarily have to see Spider-Man anymore. And they can bring him back into a larger crossover movie if there's another Avengers film or something that requires his presence. But there's no reason I don't think anybody would miss Spider-Man in the MCU because there's so much other things going on. And then they can bring him back when they need him.
Yeah, so I believe that's really the 2 possibilities on the table. But the 2 possibilities on the table are Sony and Marvel, around the time that Far From Home, I keep wanting to say Far From Home, around the time that No Way Home is coming out, that Sony and Marvel are going to announce a big expansion and extension to their deal that continues on what they've been doing and adds in the fact that the Sony characters are going to come in and play as well. That becomes a little bit problematic as to who has creative control over what happens and where, but whatever, that's another thing. But I really do think I would go 60-40, Rob. I would say it's a 40% chance that happens. I'm honestly thinking it's a 60% chance. So it's close, but that Sony is straight up about to take Spider-Man back. I think Sony is looking at the insane success they had with Venom. I think they're looking at the insane success they had with Spider-Verse. And I think they're thinking, my God, if we made $800 million plus with just Venom, what's going to happen if we make Spider-Man in Venom? And then what happens if we have Spider-Man and Craven and Morbius and Venom all like in a 4-way battle to the death? They're all trying to kill each other kind of movie. My God, what kind of box office could we make with that? Let's get Lord and Miller and put them over in charge of Spider-Man because they did such a great job with our Spider-Verse stuff. Let's put them in charge to shepherd our Spider-Man stuff and say, go. And listen, I'm not saying that's what I would do. I'm not saying that if I was in charge of this whole situation that I would say, take Spider-Man away from MCU and put him back over with Sony. I'm not necessarily saying that, but I'm saying that there's a lot of indications that that might be the way Sony is thinking because they realize they don't need Marvel anymore. They don't need Marvel. And quite frankly, the way you just kind of put it out so accurately, Rob, Marvel doesn't really need them now either. So I don't know. I think there's still a lot of options on the table. Rob, I am saying there's two options here. Is there a potential third option that maybe we're missing, that it's either, like I'm saying, it's either going to be a big expansion of the deal and they're going to continue on together, or they're taking Spider-Man back and bringing him into this Spider-Verse they have over at Sony. Is there a third option that we're not seeing here that you can think of off the top of your head?
Well, I think if anything, sort of a hybrid of both of those ideas. I think they're going to do both. I think they really can. They can have a deal, but they're also going to expand their own universe because like the president said, wouldn't it be, it's lost on no one that they want to see Spider-Man and Venom and Carnage square off. So it's, as they say, John, to him, life is a great big bang up. Whenever there's a hang up, you'll find the Spider-Man, John. And I think that there's, this contract can be a hang up. But everyone knows if there's a bang up, we get to put all these characters together. You'll find the Spider-Man. I think that's true. And I think it would benefit everyone. Plus, it's a unique, what I like the way that they've made this work. We've now had 3 standalone Spider-Man movies. Well, we're getting our third one under this deal. And Spider-Man's been in Civil War and been in the Avengers films, in Infinity War and Endgame. And I think that it's worked for both studios. And if something's working, why let that go? Why not expand it? I mean, I think obviously what they're going to do is when they do their inevitable Sinister Six movie or whatever, Kevin Feige will stay on board as a consultant. He'll make sure that things are caressed well into the universe. I mean, hell, Andy Serkis, who's a character in the MCU, is directing or did direct Venom 2.
Yep, that's a good point.
There's all kinds of cross-pollination there, and I'm sure Andy Serkis is not the kind of guy who wouldn't call up Kevin Feige and say, hey, man, what do you think about this? I want to make this work. How can we do that? I mean, it's a win-win for everybody, but mostly it's a win-win for us fans.
I agree. And listen, I like to also point out unpopular truth. A lot of people panic when they think of Spider-Man not being under the control of the MCU. And I'm going to say this. Not everybody agrees, and that's fine, but I'm going to say it. Sony has made not one, but 2 Spider-Man movies that are better than any Spider-Man movie Marvel has made. The Spider-Man 2 is still, I think, in the conversation of one of the greatest comic book movies ever made. And I think Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is better than any. And I say that, Rob, as somebody who, I really like Homecoming. I really like Far From Home, and I'm very excited for No Way Home, but they haven't made a Spider-Man movie as good as Sony has. Now, at the same time, Marvel hasn't made any Spider-Man movies as bad as The Amazing Spider-Man 2 or Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 3. Fair enough. But you get both extremes there. Anyway, guys, the question, by the way, Jake Gehring sends in a super chat badge in the live chat there. Thank you, Jake. Appreciate that. Anyway, guys, the question is for you. There's a lot to unpack there from the comments from the president of Sony Pictures. What do you guys take from that? I see 2 possible implications. The extension of the deal, or that they are indeed going to be taking Spider-Man back after No Way Home. And Rob, maybe the title is a little bit of a hint to that. There is No Way Home. After this Spider-Man movie, Spider-Man's out of the MCU. I don't know, but there are a lot of things that we could take away from that. Then suggesting that maybe wouldn't it be cool if Venom and Spider-Man met in Spider-Man in Venom 2? A lot of things to pull away. He also talked a lot in that interview, Rob, about Sinister Six that we didn't even discuss here yet. I mean, he didn't say anything clear, just kind of, kind of a few more little hints and innuendos. Question is, guys, what do you make of all this? Jump on down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Okay, guys, with all that down and out of the way, let's now move on and start taking your live comments and questions, shall we? Once again, if you want to get a live comment or question on the show, again, if it's appropriate for the show, go ahead and use the tip link that's down in the description of this video. Just click on it, or you could enter it in manually in your web browser at www.streamelements.com/movieblogtv/tip. Once again, you'll be getting your comment or question on the show if it is appropriate for the show. And of course, you're supporting the channel as you do it. And all of us here, thank you guys very much for that. Okay, let's get over to it, shall we? And we're going to pick things up here with Wes Maurer, who writes, going back to your Moon Knight main topic, Kevin Feige announced Oscar Isaac being Moon Knight at the Disney investor meeting last year. Thought that was an official announcement. Rob, that is something that came up afterwards because, all the major trades were reporting that Marvel has finally officially made it official, that we're going to see, Moon Knight, Oscar Isaac is officially going to be it. And then some people saying, well, didn't they mention Oscar Isaac? I don't remember, frankly. I don't. So I'm not saying I don't remember, frankly, that when Kevin Feige talked about Moon Knight at that Disney investors call, I don't remember them mentioning Oscar Isaac. And I say I don't remember. Like, I don't remember if they did or didn't. But then all the trades are saying it was the first time. Do you remember what if they mentioned him there or not?
I don't. But I mean, clearly we all knew that it was happening. I don't remember exactly when they announced it. I mean, I was certainly excited when they did, but I don't remember exactly when it was done.
Now, by the way, Ben Holmes and Ansh in the live chat are saying that no, they didn't mention Oscar Isaac at the official announcement of Moon Knight. So there you go. I guess that settles that. All right, next up, we've got about Craven's casting rights. Not my pick. I would rather see Karl Urban, but I'm on board. Let's see what Aaron can do. P.S. Superman and Lois Episode 7 was mid-season finale. Tom Cavanaugh, Reverse Flash, is directing the finale. I dream we see a Thawne versus Superman fight with his budget, but we won't. No, I don't want to see that either. I honestly don't want to see this Superman, which is going really well. I personally don't want to see any crossover with any of the other CW stuff. I'm not saying they won't. I'm just saying I don't want it, but that's just me. As far as, Aaron Taylor Johnson playing Craven, here's the thing again about Craven's casting. You say you'd rather have Karl Urban, but you'd have no idea what this... Here's the thing. You and I don't have any idea how this Craven is being written and what kind of Craven we're going to get. And it is possible, while I love Karl Urban, it is possible that Karl Urban would be the worst guy in the world to play it. I mean, I'm just saying we don't know. But the guys who are making the film, they seem to feel that Aaron Taylor Johnson is perfect for this. And by the way, Rob, in that interview with the Sony Pictures president, he was also talking about the casting of Aaron Taylor Johnson. And he was saying, look, they came to me saying they wanted to use him for Craven, and they're making this movie Bullet Train with Brad Pitt that Aaron Taylor Johnson is co-starring with Brad Pitt in. And he was saying, listen, we're looking at the dailies of Bullet Train, and this guy is going toe-to-toe, acting chop-wise, with Brad Pitt that the Sony president said not many people can do. And he's doing it. And as soon as we saw the dailies from what he's doing with Brad Pitt and Bullet Train, we were like, yep, you go ahead, because the director wanted to sign Aaron Taylor Johnson, and the president said, yep, you go do it, because this dude is awesome. And so it's kind of interesting to see. Rob, it's been a few days now since the announcement of Aaron Taylor Johnson was going to be playing Craven. How are you feeling about it these days?
Well, I'm a huge fan of his work. I mean, he's done, I really liked him in Oliver Stone's Savages, which was an adaptation of Don Winslow's novel of the same name. He was great in Kick-Ass. I think he's a great actor. I mean, it's funny, whenever fanboys are all, and I'm one of them, whenever we bitch and moan and complain about our initial reactions to casting, it's always funny when, it's the Heath Ledger effect. And I tend to believe that filmmakers, I trust filmmakers casting because nobody wants to, sure, sometimes it goes awry, but most filmmakers are pretty astute. they don't want to do a Craven the Hunter movie that disappoints. Anybody that's going to make a Craven the Hunter movie is like, we want somebody to play Craven the Hunter. And if they see something in another actor that you might not expect who's actually working for the same studio now, I would trust that studio because they're seeing something we have yet to see, and they're making decisions on something they're seeing, and they're not just pulling something out of their tuchus, to make happen. I mean, they're seeing this. And if Aaron Taylor Johnson he's supposed to be playing an assassin in this. Bullet Train is about all of these assassins that meet on a train for some reason. I mean, I guess. So he's literally playing an assassin in that movie. And if they're like, yep, this guy could be Craven, why not? I mean,
he certainly has the physique for it these days. He certainly has the build because the dude is just yoked. Anyway, all right, let's move on here. Next up, Matt D writes, "Hey, John, I was intrigued by the Eternals trailer, and I'm open to whatever Marvel develops, but I'm a bit concerned they might be said to have caused or significantly influenced events we have seen in prior movies. Another midichlorian situation? Thoughts?" Well, okay, first of all, Matt, no, this is not a midichlorian. There's nothing remotely similar to the midichlorian situation. Secondly, at least to me, it's a matter of interpretation, I suppose, but to me, I interpreted the trailer as saying the exact opposite. I interpreted the trailer as saying, we really have not interfered. I mean, we're here, so just by us being here is a little bit of interference. And we may have done a couple little things, but we really have tried to remain out of sight, and we try not to interfere until now. But I'm also not opposed to the idea that we find out that something that wasn't really explained before in the MCU, you might now say was kind of brought about by an Eternal or something. I'm okay with that too. But I interpreted, Rob, I don't know how you saw it, but I interpreted the trailers them actually saying the exact opposite of that. I don't know. How do you feel about that?
Well, I mean, here's the thing. It's like the idea of Jor-El telling Superman in Superman the movie, you cannot interfere in human history. And people are like, well, where are the Eternals when Thanos attacked or when Loki attacked New York? The funny thing about that is that attack on New York, it's not like it lasted for days on end. It was like it was in the afternoon. And what are the Eternals supposed to mobilize and join the fight? No. I think there's a lot of people on Earth that they're not public figures, and they're not supposed to get in and interfere. Look, if humans are going to start World War II, that's a human affair. And the Eternals, they go in and they're like, well, we're the Eternals. We're going to stop these horrible atrocities from happening. What does that do to humanity? They're going to expect us to interfere all the time. Like, it's funny. I saw a lot of that in response to the trailer. People like, well, where were they? Why didn't they interfere here? And why didn't they do this? I mean, I'm thinking that maybe they're interfering. Somebody said one of the Celestials is coming to Earth maybe to judge Earth. And it's something where it's an extinction level event. And then they're like, well, this is in our wheelhouse, so we need to get involved. I mean, I don't know. Or maybe if it's one of their own going rogue, who knows what's going on. But I think that part of what their mandate was as Eternals was stay out of human affairs, because humans need to evolve on their own. And once you do that, then they're going to rely on you, and they can't. How is a civilization going to grow and evolve if there are saviors in their midst that will show up anytime there's a problem? The Eternals like, you're going to fight a war? Fight a war. This isn't our problem.
Yeah. By the way, Ben Holmes, this is great. Ben Holmes put in the live chat, the Eternals turned Edward Norton into Mark Ruffalo. That's how the Eternals interfered. I love that. Well said, Ben. Well said. All right, let's keep going on here. Bojax, I think it's Bojax. Yes, Bojax writes, "Hey, John, just want to let the viewers know that if they want a recent frame of reference for Alan Richardson, check him out as Hawk in the Titans TV show on HBO Max. Definitely feels like he can pull off Jack Reacher." So, Rob, we were talking about this the other day, that there's a Jack Reacher show coming. The dude who played Arthur Curry or Aquaman in Smallville is playing Jack Reacher. I forgot, or I didn't realize the guy who played Hawk and Dove in the Titans show was that same dude. I didn't even realize that was him.
Yeah, I didn't either.
I didn't like Titans, so it doesn't really matter all that much. Writes, sends in a super chat badge in the live chat, by the way. Thank you, guy. So I didn't realize that, but that is a great thing to point out, Bojack. Yes, I'm looking forward to Jack Reacher. It's going to be interesting to see. where they go. But thanks for that little bit tidbit of information there, Bojack, because I completely forgot about that. Thanks, man. All right, next up. Michael Wolf writes, John, I kid you not, first trip back to my Regal Theater last night to see Cruella, great movie, and the projector froze for 20 minutes. Oh, they got to work out the kinks. Then after they were able to fix it, we still had 20 minutes of trailers. This is absolutely ridiculous. Okay, yeah, there's no excuse for that. I mean, first of all, look, Rob, I hear some people complain sometimes about, technical mishaps that happen in theaters. Here's the way I look at it. When you understand all the moving pieces that go into making a screening of a movie happen, with the audio and visual, all the different components and files that need to happen, and everything coalesces and timers and blah, and it all comes together to create the presentation. When you realize how much goes into that, and then you realize in your local multiplex, let's say you have 10 screens, and they're each showing 4 movies a day, that's 40 presentations a day in just that one theater in just one day. Now multiply that by 2,000. To me, Rob, it's actually remarkable that these technical issues don't happen more often. I'm actually stunned that they don't happen more often. To me, I never get mad at a theater when a technical thing goes wrong, like the projector blows or whatever, the power goes out, whatever. What I then look for is, what do you as a theater, are you going to do about it? Like, I'm not mad that this happened. It happens. But what are you going to do about it? Like, I remember, Rob, the last time I was in a theater, and this was probably going back about 5 years, it was at the AMC in Burbank. We were watching a movie, and just the projector went out about 3/4 of the way through the movie. And the manager came in and said, we apologize. There's nothing we can do about it right now. But on your way out, we're going to be giving you free AMC movie passes, plus some coupons for free drinks and popcorn. And to me, it was like, you know what? A crappy thing happened to you, and you did fair by us. Like, you did the best you could. So you gave us a way to make up the movie, plus you gave us some free stuff. But for a movie to freeze, though, at that one particular thing, and then you had to sit through. Now, I'm not quite sure what it is he's saying here. Is he saying that the projector froze prior to the movie starting, so the movie started 20 minutes late, and then they started with the trailers? Unfortunately, you know that I hate 20 minutes of trailers, but if they have a contract that says they got to play these trailers before the show, then they got to play the trailers before the show.
Yeah.
Even if your showtime was delayed by 20 minutes, that sucks, which means they shouldn't program 20 minutes of trailers in the first place. But if they did program it and they have that contract, then their hands are kind of tied. They have to do that. If, however, you're saying they got halfway through the movie and then the projector froze, and then when they finally got it unfroze, they played you another 20 minutes of trailers, well, that's unforgivable. That's just damn unforgivable. So it depends on what it is the way you're seeing that worked out, Michael. All right, next up. Skylar Hillman writes, and tips in like $20. Thank you, Skylar, for supporting the channel on that level, man. We appreciate that. Skylar writes, hey, John, Thursday night I saw A Quiet Place 2. I'm not going to lie, I was very skeptical of the film, but I ended up loving it. I thought Cillian Murphy's character was going to be poorly executed, but he ended up being my favorite. Rob, seriously, I thought, oh, here we go. You need a John Krasinski replacement character to fill in a certain role. Nope, totally different kind of character. With a character who maybe had 15 lines in the movie because, everything's very quiet. I could not believe the amount of character development this one character had with very little dialogue in only about a 90-minute movie. And I was thrilled with it. And the chemistry he was able to develop with Millicent Simmons, the deaf girl who plays the daughter. And by the way, Dragon10 sends in a super chat badge and live chat. Thank you, Dragon10. The chemistry that the two of them developed very quickly in the movie was fantastic. Just killer. Absolutely killer. Impressed in so many ways, Skylar, about this movie, and I'm glad you enjoyed it, my friend. And again, thanks for tipping in, man. I appreciate that. All right, next up, Skylar also writes in, I forgot to mark the previous comment as one of two. Anyway, I have an unusual but fun question to ask. What are some songs that you recommend for working out, especially running? I'm forming a new workout playlist. Oh, listen, that I can't answer that for you, because the music you listen to when you're working out is meant to be music that motivates you and inspires you and pumps you up and gets the blood flowing. And for all of us, different music does that. For some people, it's metal. Like, put on some really good metal and that's what gets them revved and gets. For certain people, it's hip hop. For certain people, it's rock. For certain people, it's classical. I mean, so I can't possibly tell you what music will get you going, because I don't know your tastes at all, because mine will be completely different from yours. So it's really whatever gets you going, man. But hey, good on you for getting a new workout routine going.
John, right. I have one thing he's got to put on his playlist.
What's that?
Bill Conti's "Going the Distance" from the Rocky soundtrack.
Oh, the one that starts with the bell?
Yep.
Dun, that one's great. I'll throw in one more too. And it starts with that big, okay.
It belongs in any workout playlist.
I'll give you that one. I'll suggest one other one, but again, this is just me and my own personal bias. Hans Zimmer, "What Are You Going to Do When You're Not Saving the World?" from Man of Steel, I should say. That one, oh, F me. Lots of good ones. All right, next up. Suthius writes, while it not might not be fun or interesting to talk about an actor/actress's first role in an unknown movie, we could spin it and say that it may pique people's interest to check out said movie, much the same way many people check out a remake of the original movie. Okay, so where that's coming from, Rob, is somebody brought up a suggestion the other day, because we were talking about a particular actor and how they got a start in such and such a show, and somebody said, you should make that a weekly feature. Bring up an actor and then talk about the first thing they appeared in. And my response to that was, that's cool when the first thing they appeared in was something that we're all familiar with.
Right.
It's not as interesting. Today we're going to talk about, I don't know, let me pull an actor, Antonio Banderas. Did you know his first appearance as an actor was in something called Jack and the Magic Doorstop? That was made for a small cable television network in Peru.
Didn't know that. Yeah.
I mean, then it loses any interest. Then it's not all that interesting of a story, at least to me. To me, then it kind of... Now, if we were talking about Antonio Banderas and saying, did you know that the first thing he actually appeared in was he was that kid in that one scene in The Godfather? What? Like for Michael B. Jordan, it's like, I don't know if this was his first thing, but when I realized that that kid in The Wire was Michael B. Jordan, like, that's like, oh my God, then that becomes a really interesting thing. So I don't know, Rob, do you think a segment like that can work even when, like, 9 times out of 10, the first thing they appeared in was probably nothing of note? Do you think there's still, I don't think it's worth doing, but I don't know, do you?
I don't necessarily think so, because, whenever I go back and I watch, like, when actors do retrospectives on their careers, like on Variety does them, or the white backgrounds. Like, I watched one over the weekend. It was Willem Dafoe. And Willem Dafoe was in Tony Scott's 1983 vampire movie, The Hunger, with John Campea. And they just played two guys that need to use a phone that Susan Sarandon is on. And Willem Dafoe says, "Hey, lady, how about it?" And that's it. That's it. And I'm like, would that be something that you'd want to cover? That one line? Willem Dafoe didn't even talk about my favorite role of his, which is the counterfeiter Rick Masters in To Live and Die in L.A. He didn't talk about that. And there he was he was the antagonist. So, I think when you go back, it becomes a segment that would only last a couple of minutes because, well, Willem Dafoe was in The Hunger for one less than 5 seconds. And is that worth talking about? I mean, it's interesting and fun, but how do you turn that into a fun segment?
Yeah, I agree. All right. Thanks for that, Suthia. So appreciate the input, man. All right. Duddle Puddle writes, "Hello, Campea. Have you seen the Shamhammer series, The Servant, on Apple TV? While I really like season 1, they totally lost me halfway through season 2. But the episodes the Hammer directed himself, damn, the dude can still make good shit. John watched season 1. No, actually, there are a number of things on Apple TV, including The Servant, Rob. I have heard good things about The Servant. Now, I didn't know how much of it M. Night actually directed himself and how much he was just the overall producer of it, I don't know. But I've heard good things, which is not terribly, shouldn't surprise us because there's a lot of good things coming out of Apple TV Plus, to be honest with you. So, no. And by the way, there's that Chris Evans one, too. I haven't seen that Chris Evans one. The one where his son's accused of murder. I haven't watched that one, but I've heard nothing but incredible things about it. I've heard it's fantastic, but I haven't had a chance to watch it yet. And this was also, I have heard also what you just said, dude. I've heard that the second season wasn't nearly as good. That's what I've heard. I haven't seen it myself. But Rob, have you had a chance to see any of this M. Night series?
No, but same thing. It looks right up my alley. I just haven't seen it yet. But it's, one of the many hundreds of series that I plan on seeing soon.
Yeah, well, there's hoping. All right. Where are we at here? Hold on a second. Where are we? There we are. Next up, we got BK Dan who writes, John, have to point out that Sony does indeed own a streaming service, albeit a small one. Crackle started in 2007. Like I said, BK, when we were talking about this the other day, they actually have entirely or pieces of several streaming services, to be honest with you. What we said specifically was we did note that they do have some smaller stuff. They don't own like a premium streaming service like Apple TV Plus, Paramount Plus, Amazon Prime, Disney Plus. They don't have that. They don't have Sony Plus or Sony Prime. So yeah, they do have their fingers in the pots in a number of smaller services, but right now they don't have a big major one. And of course, the question is, will they develop one? I think maybe they shouldn't develop one because right now they're the only major studio that can just create content and then have everybody bid for their content and pay them ungodly amounts of money. So I don't know. We'll see where they go with that. All right. Scott Brown writes, I'm a couple of days behind the show, John, but orgasm pie. Really, John? That made me laugh pretty hard. So my movie pie would be Jeremy Irons as Skeletor, Gerard Butler as Man-at-Arms, and Alexander Skarsgård as He-Man with Gareth Evans directing. Alexander Skarsgård as He-Man. He would have to bulk up a little bit more. Alexander Skarsgård is already in terrific shape, absolutely terrific shape. But he would have to bulk up a little bit more. Gareth Evans directing a He-Man movie. That's not bad. That's not bad. But Jeremy Irons, you put Jeremy Irons in anything. I'm there. I'm totally there. All right. Next up, we've got Alvin Elmore writes, I'm going to make a prediction, John. I understand Feige made it crystal clear that he has no plans for any X-Men movie at this moment. However, I think in one of these upcoming movies, we will hear the word mutant for the first time in the MCU. That's totally possible, Rob. Because, we've been saying ever since Infinity War, people thought X-Men popping up and appearing was imminent. Any second now. And of course, we saw that with every movie that's come out. We've seen that in every TV show. Obviously, with WandaVision was a huge thing. And we kept reminding people, listen, guys, Kevin Feige said when they acquired Fox, I'm going to get through my 5 years of plans first, and then we will do it. But Rob, that was 3.5 years ago. We are getting closer and closer to that deadline. And remember, when Kevin Feige said 5 years, he wasn't specifically saying 1,700, and 35 days from now. He wasn't trying to be, pinpoint. He said, you're roughly got 5 years planned. Every day that passes, we are getting closer and closer, Rob, to when we are going to see and start to get a taste of whatever Kevin Feige has in mind for X-Men. And I completely agree with you, Alvin, that yes, just because we may not see an X-Men pop up anytime immediately soon, there is nothing stopping Kevin Feige from, as a side note, not changing or affecting his overall stories for what he's doing in these upcoming movies and shows, that the phrase mutant couldn't be dropped. He could. It's possible. Of course, him doing that would have to mean that mutants already exist in the world. We don't know if they're going to do that or not. But theoretically, little things like that don't have any implication to the show or the movie that they're in, that could happen any moment. I completely agree with that. Rob, what do you think about that?
Well, it's such a hard thing to address. I don't really know. I think I agree with most of what you've said here. The way, I don't know, John. The way things change and shift around, I don't really, I really can't really add what to what you were saying. You know, I mean,
All
I
right.
agree.
All right. Next up, we got James L.H. who writes, "Hey, John, firstly, I liked Rob's shirt on Friday with Crazy Ivan and One Ping from Hunt for Red October." Yes, Rob's
I'm
always
glad
got the best
somebody
shirt.
got that. God, I
Rob
was so proud of that shirt.
Rob always has the best shirts. Anyway, from Hunt for Red October, I just finished the new Lucifer. I loved it. I'm only 3 episodes in because I can't watch an episode without Anne, because if I do, I'm threatening the stability of my relationship. So I have to wait on Anne to be able to watch the next one. Anyway, I loved it. Tom Ellis is so good. Also funny, DB Woodside and Dennis Haysbert from Brothers in 24 to Father and Son. Was that DB Woodside in 24 playing Dennis Haysbert's younger brother?
I believe it was, sir. Yes.
I didn't even realize that was him. I had no idea that was him. I mean, obviously you remember Dennis in it as the president. Of course you remember that. I didn't realize that was him. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Because there's this great scene in like episode 2 of this new season 5B where it's just like God and DB, Dennis and DB are standing side by side. And they're just washing dishes in the kitchen. And they're just talking back and forth as father and son. And man, that would have geeked me out if I had remembered that DB had played his brother. I didn't even realize that. Emmett Deal was the president's brother. I totally forgot about that. Anyway, thank you for pointing that out.
Figure of the president 24.
No, of Dennis Haysbert?
I do. Yes, I do.
Of course you do. Of course you do. He was one of the great.
I'll tell you what, Jack Bauer.
I would put his president right up there with Martin Sheen's president from West Wing. I think those are the two best television presidents ever.
Yep. I agree with you. I loved him as the president, which is why I bought he's a generic action figure wearing a suit, but the head sculpt's really good. And I just love the fact that I have it.
All right. I love the fact that you have it too. All right. Next up, European fan writes, "In talking all these upcoming Batman related projects, we often forget about what may be the least exciting one. Batman audio drama on Spotify coming out later this year. Oversaturation indeed." I totally forgot about that, and I forget who's doing it. But yes, I don't know if you remember this, Rob, but yes, Spotify had signed a deal that there is a Batman audio drama coming. And I remember they even announced who's going to be doing the voices, and I cannot remember who it is, but they did announce it. But do you remember hearing about this, Rob?
Well, I'll tell you, not specifically about the Batman audio drama, but if anyone has listened to the Sandman audio drama, obviously Sandman, the series is coming from Netflix. One of my favorite. Star-studded voice cast in that. It's so good. And after that, I was thinking after I listened to Sandman, I'm like, man, I would be so there for dramatizations of comic book characters in audio form. I mean, I bet a Batman... Hell, you could get Kevin Conroy to come back and do. I mean, the Sandman audio drama is like 11 hours long, dude. I'm in. Count me in. Batman?
Could be great. All right, next up, we've got Dangerous Lee writes, "Hey, John, I only recently found out that a very young Aaron Taylor Johnson starred with Jackie Chan and Owen Wilson in their Eastern Western Shanghai Nights." Really? He played little Charlie Chaplin. Cheers. I had no idea. See, that's a good example, Rob. This is one that could work if that was indeed his first role. By the way, Owen Wilson, Jackie Chan's Shanghai Noon. I love that movie. I love that movie. That movie is so great. And yet the sequel was so bad. I did not like Shanghai Nights. It
was so depressing to see that.
So bad. It was really the first one. Like, I know Owen Wilson had been around before that, but I wasn't really at that time, however many years ago this was. I wasn't really familiar with Owen Wilson. So like Owen Wilson, like for me, burst onto the scene with Shanghai Noon. I just love the chemistry between him and Jackie Chan. Actually, I think they had better chemistry than Jackie Chan and who's in the Rush Hour series with him? Chris
Tucker.
Chris Tucker. And I love Rush Hour 2, but I thought Owen Wilson and Jackie Chan's chemistry was even better than Chris Tucker and Jackie Chan's chemistry. I thought they were great. But man, that first one was so... Because what was his name in it? John Wan or something like that, and Owen Wilson misinterpreted it as saying John Wayne. You're saying your name's John Wayne? That's a terrible cowboy name. I just love that. I love that movie so much. All right. Thanks for pointing that out, Dangerously. I did not realize that. All right. Next up. European fan writes, I saw Cruella on Friday and I liked it. Really loved Emma Stone's performance in it. Me too. The monologue she had at the fountain at the beginning of the third act was all sorts of brilliant. Yeah, listen, I am 100% with you, European fan. I thought the movie was good. It's a good movie. Again, not a top 10 contender, but it's a good, solid little movie. But Emma Stone's performance was Emma Stone-like. I mean, she's an Academy Award winner. She delivered. So I completely, and yeah, that little monologue she gave when she drives up on the stolen bike up to the fountain, she does that little monologue. That was terrific. That was absolutely terrific. All right, next up. A good Irish kid writes in, one of three. Hey, John and gang. Greetings from the Emerald Isle. I've been thinking about how they are going to move forward with Venom, and it occurred to me. You've probably had this already, or it's probably in the rumor mill somewhere on the interweb, but I suspect that Venom is the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man universe. I think it's perfect for them as they can keep Tom Holland separate from Venom, and if it were floated at the same time, I'm sure Feige would have approved it, as he wasn't keen on Holland branching off into the Spider-Verse. I'm sure I haven't thought of plot holes in that idea, but I think Garfield deserves a better chance with a better script/movie. Would it work, and would you want to see it? Keep up the great content and bring on the filthy. Well, thanks so much for sending that in, good Irish kid. And listen, Rob, you know, I am unapologetic about this. I love Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man.
I like the first one a lot.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, I really like the first movie. The second one was obviously on shaky ground, but Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man, I am a lucky fan in that I've really enjoyed all three guys who have played him on screen. I really loved Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, who was very different from Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. Then I also loved his Spider-Man, and they are both very different from Tom Holland's Spider-Man, and I love him as Spider-Man. I really loved Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. The fundamental problem, though, good Irish kid, and Rob, I want to know if you agree with this or not. The fundamental problem, though, about the idea of the Spider-Man that they're going to bring into this Spideyverse over at Sony, it not being Tom Holland, but it's going to be Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. Here's the problem with this. The deal that Marvel and Sony specifically have restricts Sony from being able to do anything live action with Spider-Man while they're doing a live action Spider-Man with the MCU. Because like the MCU be like, how does it benefit us to give you all this money and you get to do all the distributing for the Spider-Man movies if you're just going to go and confuse the audience by having another live action Spider-Man while we're doing live action Spider-Man? You know, there are going to be prohibitive things in there, and it wouldn't help Sony. Like Disney would not be thrilled with that at all. Like, we're trying to make live action Spider-Man movies over here, and you're making different live action Spider-Man movies. Not cool. They would never approve it. And I'm sure that's written into their deal. So that's why I don't think that idea could work. And if Sony is taking back the rights to Spider-Man, as much as I love Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man, why would you go back to Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man when you can take the current popular Spider-Man of Tom Holland, who is the current Spider-Man, and just use him instead? So I don't know, Rob, what do you make of, I mean, other than that, good Irish kid, I mean, I love the way your head's thinking on that. I love the theory of it. I just don't think practically it can work. Rob, what do you think?
Oh, no, I agree with you entirely on this, because they can't, I mean, the Tom Holland Spider-Man is the Spider-Man. If you look at the box office of the movies that he's appearing in, you can't argue with that. I mean, he's the current iteration of Spider-Man, and Andrew Garfield was in one Spider-Man that was really good and one Spider-Man movie that wasn't so good. And I think I understand why he's a great gifted performer. The Spider Universe is not there anymore. The Spider Universe as it exists is Tom Holland's Spider-Man universe, not, I mean, yeah, maybe after the Multiverse of Madness, you could do that. I just don't think from a business standpoint or a storytelling standpoint or an audience standpoint, it would really work.
All right. Thanks for writing that in, though, good Irish kid, and keep coming up with those theories, man. All right. Next up, Lexi Forbes writes, hey, John and Rob, the first movie theater experience I remember was my parents taking me to see Batman Forever in 1995. What was the first movie you both remember seeing in theaters? Well, for me, for anybody who's watched for any period of time, you know the answer to this. It is my earliest childhood memory. The only thing I remember, even though I was like 5, was my mom showing me Star Wars. That taking me to Star Wars. I remember, I actually have fragments of memories of that. My next memory that I remember is years later with my aunt taking me to see Empire Strikes Back. And I remember we got to the theater a little bit late and we went to get popcorn because my aunt loved having movie popcorn. So we went to get popcorn first and there was no line because the movie had just started and everybody's inside. And then we got in just as they were on Hoss. So we didn't miss much. The next movie I saw that I remember seeing after that was, I think, the first movie I ever went on my own to go see, like with friends, like without parents or anything. And I think that was Kenny Rogers' movie Six Pack, where Kenny Rogers plays like a race car driver who ends up picking up 6 kids who become his pit crew, which breaks all sorts of child labor laws, Rob. All sorts of child labor laws. But whatever, it's Kenny Rogers. Do what you want. But those are the ones I remember. Rob, do you remember the first time, your first experience in a movie theater and what it was?
You know, to be honest, I really can't. I have vague memories of seeing Disney classic animation. But my first movie theater experiences, I don't remember. I had really, starting when I was about 7 and 8, I started really remembering the movie going experiences I had. I mean, seeing Jaws in a movie theater was a big deal, you know, because that was something by the time I was 8 years old, I anticipated seeing Jaws. So it was something that I would say around 7 and 8 is when I started to get really excited for movies. But before that, I don't really remember, because it wasn't the kind of thing where I wasn't aware that movies were even coming out. Like, It was just kind of like this magical thing that your parents said, well, we're going to see Snow White. I'm like, great. That sounds great. But like, you know, I didn't know they were coming. So going was fun, but it was like going to an amusement park. You know, it's fun while you're there, but you don't really remember it. But then when I started getting into movies and reading books and loving science fiction TV shows, then when I would see commercials, I'm like, oh, I got to see that. But Jaws was the first movie that I remember. Actually, it was The Exorcist, but I would hear radio ads for The Exorcist, and my parents were like, there's no way we're going to take a 7-year-old to see The Exorcist, or 6-year-old. I'm like, come on, Mom, this sounds awesome. Nope. So it was Jaws that was the first movie, and I didn't see it till it was out for like 3 months because nobody was going to take us. Like, you're going to be too scared. I'm not going to be too scared. Come on, man. Let's go to Jaws. What's up?
All right. Next up, we've got we got this covered rights. One of two. Hey, John and Rob. The other day I sent you my remaining most anticipated list. Number 1, Dune. Number 2, No Time to Die. Number 3, The Suicide Squad. Number 4, The French Dispatch. Number 5, In the Heights. Number 6, Last Night in Soho. Number 7, Dear Evan Hansen. Number 8, A Quiet Place 2. Number 9, Reminiscence. And number 10, Shang-Chi. Now that you have seen the trailer for Last Night in Soho and we have confirmation that The French Dispatch is releasing this fall, do either of these two films now make your remaining top 10, especially since now you have seen A Quiet Place 2 as a spot is open? All right, thanks for sending that in, man. No. For me, no. Neither of those take a place in my top 10 most anticipated. That is not me being disparaging on either of these. I think both of these look good. I think Last Night in Soho looks amazing. That trailer is awesome. You got Edgar Wright directing it. I mean, what's not to love? But there's just so much good stuff coming, Rob, that even though that looks great, and I'd be lying if I told you I was super pumped for The French Dispatch. I'm not. Don't get me wrong. I don't think it looks bad. I'm not super excited for it. Soho I am, but still not quite enough to crack my top 10. So for me, no. Rob, what about you? I can't remember your list specifically. So do either The French Dispatch or Soho make it into your top 10 most anticipated for the rest of this year?
I got to say it. The trailer for Last Night in Soho really put that up there for me.
It was great.
You know, I'm like, okay, this looks pretty damn good. So I would say it's certainly up there. And Reminiscence is directed by Lisa Joy, who I think is Jonathan Nolan's wife, and they did Westworld together. It's a science fiction movie that I've not seen the trailer for. I don't know if it's out yet, but it's definitely one I'm interested in, but it's not in the top 10. But I do want to see it badly.
All right, next up. We've got T-Man writes, Superman and Lois season 1 will be 15 episodes. Episode 8 airs June 1st. The show has already been renewed for a second season, which will premiere in early 2022. Yeah, because I heard some people saying that this episode 7 was the season finale. I'm like, oh, wow, that was the season finale? Okay. Seems weird, but apparently it's just the finale of part 1 of the season. Then there's going to be the second half of the season, people have pointed out, which I'm very excited about because I've really been enjoying this show. And I'll tell you what, the reveal of John Henry Irons in the last episode was great. I did not see it coming. I didn't see it coming at all. So, and it's very difficult for a TV show or movie to catch because we've all seen so many movies and TV shows. It's difficult to catch us off guard with these little twists, but I did not see that one coming. All right. Floorgasm writes, YouTube Reactor's favorite band, Nightwish, I've never heard of them, held the first in a series of virtual concerts on Friday to an audience of 150,000, each paying 35 euros. Why the hell would you pay $35 to watch a concert on a computer monitor? I wouldn't pay that for a U2 concert. to watch on a computer monitor?
I would do that with Prince.
Well, yeah, but there's other implications, Rob.
I know it would be coming from heaven, so that would be worth the 35 bucks.
He'd be coming from beyond the grave. Anyway, next, keep going here. Thus, earning the band 5,250,000 euros. Is this a sign of fans' thirst for live music or a start of a trend? I don't know. I have no idea. I've never even heard of the band Nightwish. And honestly, I think the idea of paying $35, what is 35 euros in American, like 45 bucks? Anyway, I can't remember off the top of my head. The idea of paying that kind of money for a streamed concert to me seems absolutely ludicrous. That seems completely ludicrous to me. I don't know, Rob. What about you? What do you think?
Well, I mean, it really depends on how much, you like the band and if you want to support them. I mean, band merch, you buy a sweatshirt and it's 50 bucks. So, I mean, if you really like the band and you're not like, if you're not in a place where they're going to play live anytime soon, I guess it would kind of be the next best thing. You're watching a live concert experience, more like it'd be like pay-per-view or whatever. But
would you pay $35 for that?
I know. I mean, it depends if you love the music, but
you can listen to the music. You can listen to it for free.
Yeah, but watching them play, you know what it's like. I mean, live music can be tremendous. I would say this though. Nothing beats going to a live show for your favorite band.
Yeah. That I would pay 10 times that for the right band. Absolutely. But watching,
I mean, Pet Shop Boys and New Order are coming to the Hollywood Bowl, and the tickets are like $1,000. I'm like, how can I carve out the money to go?
Yeah. Now somebody just put on the thing, like Suthius puts in live chat. Yeah, but we pay for fights. Totally different. Like U2, my all-time favorite band, I can pop on and hear the U2 songs at any time. I can hear the songs as they are. And I can watch them in music videos and all that kind of stuff. The fights, the sporting event is something that is ongoing. It's unpredictable. You don't know what's going to happen. You're on the edge of your seat, the action, all that kind of stuff. It's not predetermined. It's not a fight you've seen before. It's completely different. So yeah, I'm all for like paying money to, rent a movie on Amazon Prime or to watch a big sporting event or something like that. But I don't know, a concert? That much money for a concert? I mean, don't get me wrong. If U2 was going to be doing a live from wherever concert and it was like $2.99, I might fork over $2.99 to see that maybe. But $35 I don't know. That seems strange to me. I'm not poo-pooing on anybody else who would do it. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying for me, since you're asking me, to me, it seems very odd. But whatever. All right. Thanks for sending that in, Floorgasm. Okay, next up. Where are we at? Warner's Lost Brother writes, Hi, my friends. Just added to the pack of Final Space recommendations. I hope you give it a try. It's certainly unique. Clever narrative, solid characters, heartwarming, funny. A few episodes. It opens and closes, simple but robust. Peace and joy for you. Rob, somebody was writing in the other day about Final Space. I'm not really familiar with it. Have you watched any of it? Are you familiar with it much?
I know what it is, but I have not watched it. It's, again, so many, but it's right. I'll watch any sci-fi show. Especially sci-fi shows set in space, but I just haven't gotten around to watching it. I don't even know where it was. Like, if you ask me, I know when shows are like on Fox or FX. I don't know where Final Space even was. Like, a cursory Google search would give me the answer to that, but offhand, when I'm sitting in front of my my screen streaming something, I wouldn't know where to find it. I guess I could just say, "Show me Final Space," and it would show up.
Probably
But
yes.
I have never watched it.
And by the way, thank you for adding to the voice of the recommendations, because if enough people write in that recommendation, Warner, I'll probably take the time to check it out. So thank you, Warner's Lost Brother. By the way, it's a good username. Thank you for adding your voice to the recommendations on that. All right, next up, Suthius writes, season finale of WandaVision, we see Wanda upgrade her suit. Season finale of Falcon the Winter Soldier, we see Sam in a new suit. Now, what about Loki? I have a feeling that this Loki variant will still be alive by the end. Will we see him in an updated suit? Well, I mean, here's the reality, Rob. Every time Captain America, the real Captain America, Steve Rogers, was on screen, it was always a different variation of the suit. Iron Man, every single movie had a different variation of the suit. Why? To sell toys. I have no doubt that in this Loki series, we're going to see him, Rob, just in the trailer itself, we see him in several different kinds of outfits.
Yep.
From prison outfits to Vote Loki outfits to a traditional outfit. I mean, I have
hot toys.
Yes, exactly. I think we're probably going to get several variations of it. So I would say, yes, Rob, do you expect to see more variations of the Loki outfit?
Oh, yes, I think we're going to see all different kinds of variations of the Loki outfit, and I can't wait. I mean, I got it, to be honest, I'm a little disappointed in the films. We've always there's been different outfits there, but they're all variations on a theme.
Yeah.
They're all pretty similar. And while I like them, I mean, I like the black and the green and the gold trim and all that. I would like to see I'd love to see a red Loki outfit,
Ooh.
So, I mean, something, more mischief oriented, maybe. So, but look, I love all the different guises that we've seen. Loki comes to us in next week. Like, what, 9 days or something? I can't wait to see
Very
the show.
excited.
It looks bonkers. The Time Variance Authority, it looks like as bonkers as Ragnarok was, I think this is going to be the most out there MCU production yet. And I can't wait. I can't wait.
So excited. And of course, we're going to be doing our pre-game shows and our post-game spoiler reviews of them, of course. Yeah. Make sure you guys tune in for that. Very excited about that. All right, let's do one more while we got Rob here with us, shall we? This one comes to us from our friend Logan James Kynaston, who writes, "Hey, John. Here in the UK, my local Cineworld has recently reopened, which is awesome. So far, I've seen Judas and the Black Messiah, good one to see. Nomadland, best film I've seen in years. I love them both. I also got my ticket booked for Quiet Place Part 2. Excellent for next week. Man, it is so great to be going back. Rob, I'll tell you what. We've been hearing from people like Logan here the last little while about getting back to theaters. Ann and I went to go watch A Quiet Place Part 2 on the weekend. It was my second time seeing it. Ann wasn't able to go with me the first time I saw it. And I've gone back about 8 times now to theaters, and it still hasn't worn off, Rob. That feeling of being opening the door to that cinema and walking in, smelling the popcorn in the air, hearing people talking, that thing of finding where's your theater and going in, taking your seat. Dude, I'm getting chills. You can't see my arms because my shirt is covering it, but I'm getting chills just thinking about it. It is so good. And then, of course, yesterday, Ann and I got to go to a basketball game. A couple months ago, thinking going to an arena of people. It feels so good. Look, I say all that very cognizant of the fact that there are still places in the world that are still in the midst of all the muck with the whole pandemic thing and are doing, really, really struggling. And I acknowledge that. And of course, our sympathies and our thoughts to those places around the world. That's some terrible, terrible stuff they're going through. But being where we are, it feels really good coming out the other side. And that magic feeling of going back to the movies, it still hasn't worn off. Rob, I know you've gone to the theater a couple of times now.
Yeah.
Where are you at right now with that feeling of being able to go back finally?
John, it's so glorious. I mean, again, I like seeing, growing up, I saw so many different kinds of movies in theaters. I think the experience of seeing a movie on a giant screen with a sound system that gives the movie presence, you feel it inside you when the bass hits or when a great piece of score. I honestly believe that everything is made better if you see it on a big screen in a theater. it becomes an experience. It penetrates your soul, John, more so than if you're just watching it on TV, because when you're watching something on TV, the phone might ring, you might get a text message, whatever, you have to look. But when you're in a theater, there's nothing else to do. Your attention, I think your brain is more opened up because you're focused intently on what's on the screen before you. There's no distractions. None. And that's what makes it so much fun. And plus, when you see something that's big, on a big screen. I mean, I remember seeing the opening of The Dark Knight. It was in front of, they showed that heist scene in the beginning in front of some other movie. I don't remember which, and I remember watching it. It was like, I was like, this is so, there's this one long shot where you hear this kind of whine on the soundtrack, this kind of the score as the camera's pushing into this building. And then you see the explosion of the glass happen before the dudes slide across to another building. I was just completely like, oh man, I was so in. And then of course it ended. I'm like, damn it. Damn, I want to see The Dark Knight now. But it was that kind of enveloping feeling where nothing else matters than what you're watching on the screen.
Yeah,
It's so great. So great.
There's just no, listen, I'm very happy and grateful for the home theater setup that I have. I love it. That's great. But anybody who thinks that like the home thing can compare, it's just self-delusion. It's just nothing compares to it. And I'll tell you what, being in that theater, watching A Quiet Place 2, not only because of the incredible image and being in that thing, but when you're with other people who are reacting and gasping and jumping and laughing, whatever, along with you, that's what I call the magic pixie dust of going to the movies. Like in that portal scene with Endgame that we talk about is a great example of that it just can't be replaced. And I love it. Logan, I'm so glad you had a chance to go back. Now, listen, I said that was the last one we'd have with you, Rob, but I just caught something in the next question that I think you should be here and be a part of. So let's address that one, shall we? And by the way, Gasper Gonzalez sends in a super chat badge in the live chat. Thank you, Gasper. Appreciate that, man. All right. Let's take this one more here while Rob is still here with us. This comes to us from Mike Prez, who writes, one of two. Not sorry for what I'm about to say. We have no need to be sorry because John and Rob, if he's there, and he is, I will raise my root beer or caffeine-free light blue can of Zevia Cola to you. Cheers to us and our Zevia. And I don't know if you are a fan of Nassau, but cheers to Nassau. May Nassau and humanity explore our great and boundless universe. We are one people, one kind, and searching for a better day. And Rob, I wanted you to still be here for that because I know I'll be honest. I don't pay a lot of attention to the space exploration news and things like that and the landing of the things on Mars, but I know you are. You follow this stuff very closely. So how would you respond to what Mike just said here?
Well, I mean, we're living in an amazing time where various space missions, I mean, we got 3 different nations in Mars. Yeah. I mean, we're there. The Chinese are there. I think the UAE, the United Arab Emirates, is there, which is amazing. And there's never been a more exciting time. And the thing that people are always like, well, Rob, there's why spend money on space exploration when there's so many problems here at home? Well, the thing is, space exploration from a technological standpoint is pushing the boundaries of all technologies that will filter back into our own culture in a myriad of ways. I mean, my favorite example is hair dryers. Like they had to figure out a way to stop condensation when you're in a space capsule and you're breathing out. How do you stop electrical shortages because there's so much moisture in the environment as you breathe out? How do you keep things warm? So that's why they created microfilaments that could keep things warm, like pieces of wire that would heat up. And then someone said, hey, you can take those microfilaments and blow air through them and make hair dryers. And so you just never know what the practical uses that space research can create does. Plus, I think it's a great way to show, we need, as a species, we need collective dreams. And moving out and becoming a multi-species, a multi-planet species is something we're going to have to do. We need to do this. And it is truly the final frontier. And there's never been a more exciting time with the privatization of space between Jeff Bezos's Blue Origin and Elon Musk's SpaceX and all the other companies that are rising up. Virgin Galactic, man, there's never been a better time to be a space fan.
Rob, again, thank you for being here today. We've taken you a bit over time. In the meantime, we'll of course see you again tomorrow. But until then, where can people follow you and your adventures online?
You can find me on Instagram at Robert Meyer Burnett. Follow me on Twitter at BurnettRM, or find me on my own YouTube channel, The Burnett Work.
All right, Rob, thanks for being here, man. Good show today, and I will talk to you again tomorrow, my friend. Have a good one.
Yes, sir. It was way fun.
All right, guys, that is the one and the only, the great Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett, bringing his glory and goodness to the show. But we still have some time here, so let's keep on going, shall we, and get to more of your questions before we wrap things up today. All right, next up, we've got, who do we have? We have Ryan G, who writes, "Hey, John, have you or Rob," and we just missed Rob, "have you ever watched Gossip Girl? And do you think the show is better than Sex and the City? Everybody in the chat, don't laugh. So what? I've watched Gossip Girl and you haven't. Are you and Rob going to watch the reboot, Gossip Girl?" All right. No, it's funny you mentioned that, because just last night, we had a couple of people over here last night. And I walked in the room, and I think it was Corey. No, it was not last night. 2 nights ago. Corey was over here 2 nights ago. And I was outside doing some work around the pool, and I came in, and Ann and Corey were watching something, and Gossip Girl came up. And I said, "Do you guys ever watch Gossip Girl? Because I don't know anything about Gossip Girl other than the fact that Blake Lively was in it. That's all I know about Gossip Girl." And they watched it, and they had enjoyed Gossip Girl, and they reminded me that I knew it was coming. So anyway, look, to answer the question, no, I have never seen Gossip Girl. I've heard good things about it. I've heard decent things about it, but it's always sounded like a show that wasn't for me. Not that that's a bad thing. And so since I never watched the original, no, I don't really have any interest for the second one. Could it be as good as Sex and the City? I doubt it, because Sex and the City, like, that was a culturally shifting, changing kind of an event show. Like, that impact, like Sex and the City, say what you want about it, it had a massive impact on pop culture. It really did. And it just has endured and endured and endured. So yeah, I mean, again, I only watched a few episodes of Sex and the City. I watched the movies. But I have a hard time imagining Gossip Girl that had a much smaller impact being as good as Sex and the City. But then again, I don't know, because I haven't seen it. So I can't say that definitively, obviously. But yeah. By the way, Skylar Hillman sends in another super chat badge in live chat. Thank you, Skylar. All right, let's move on here. And by the way, Ryan, don't let anybody put you down for what it is you like to watch. Everything hits us all in different ways. And if a show like that, you watch it, and you know what? It just entertains you. Then it entertains you. Don't you take crap from anybody if you like Gossip Girl. All right, next up. Who we got now? We've got Caleb, who writes, "You said Discovery would make DC films more independent from Warner Brothers." No, I didn't exactly say that. Like Marvel's relationship to Disney Pictures, and bringing in a Kevin Feige type to run it all. But don't they have someone perfect for that role already in Walter Hamada? He's four-fifths as president of DC Films. Birds of Prey has 78% critic audience scores. I still thought the movie was terrible, but whatever. Plus a good 10 years producer and exec at New Line and Warner Brothers. And the upcoming slate is very promising. So I ask, do you think Hamada would be the one to run this venture? Why or why not? Well, look, it comes down to a bunch of different things. Number one, I'm often thinking in terms of what I think they should do, right? Now, look, the head honcho of Discovery does have a track record of putting strong, independent people in charge of the various outlets. You know, we talked about the president he has in place of the Food Network, the president he has in place of HGTV, the president he has in place of like the Travel Channel, whatever, and he empowers them to run their divisions. Obviously, he needs their approvals, and they need his blessing on a lot of things, but he gives them a lot of flexibility and a lot of freedom to run their divisions the way they want to run those divisions. So I think it stands to reason, because one of the things that Warner Brothers has right now, because we heard the president of Warner Pictures talking about how, oh yeah, they have like 5 or 6 people that all get to give their input and they make the decisions all together. And I don't think that's the way to go. What I believe they are going to do, once Discovery takes over Warner Media and Warner Brothers and DC and all that kind of stuff. What I believe they're going to do, it's not what I know they're going to do, it's only what I believe they're going to do. I believe that the CEO of Discovery, who's going to be in charge of all of this, he is going to continue doing what he does. He will appoint one person to kind of head the different divisions and give them the power to really oversee things. And I do believe that the DC brand will become one of those things. And I think Walter Hamada is the guy to run it. I think Walter Hamada is the guy to run it. And that Walter Hamada should be able to run it and only have to answer to one or two people. To maybe the person that the head of Discovery puts in charge of the Warner Media part of it, and then to him himself, and that's it. Just like Kevin Feige only answered for the longest time to two people. Kevin Feige for the longest time has only answered to Alan Horn and to Bob Iger himself, and that's it. And I think Hamada should be given that power as well. I really do. I think he should be given those reins. But I don't know if they're going to do that. And for all I know, the CEO of Disney, or of Discovery, I should say, he may already have somebody else in mind, for all we know. So my guess is that, let's say for argument's sakes, it is Hamada. Hamada will then have to answer directly to the head person in charge of Warner Media, and then to the head guy of Discovery overall, who's going to be the big boss. And that's probably it. Or maybe they set it up where Hamada doesn't even have to answer to the head person of Warner Media. Maybe they just set it up where Hamada, or whoever takes that role, just answers directly to the CEO of Discovery, and that's it. I mean, I don't know. But again, we are talking about what I think they should do. Not necessarily what they will do. We'll have to wait and see. But yes, I do believe, start this thing off with Walter Hamada. Give him that promotion. Give him that authority. Let him actually run with this for 4 or 5 years, and let's see where it goes. I think he would do a great job. I don't know that, and I don't know if that's what they're going to do, but that's kind of what I'm guessing. All right, next up. We've got, that was from Caleb. Thanks, man. Island Boy writes, John, you should be watching your Leafs right now. They are struggling. I hope they don't choke. I went to uni. I don't know what uni is in Toronto, but man, always wish Leafs would do better. I know it ain't easy, but go Leafs, go beat those Habs. So of course, this was written in, this weekend when I was doing a live companion video, and I was doing the live companion video while the third period of the Leafs Habs game was going on. And of course the Leafs went on to choke and they lost that game, and now they got to play game 7. And it is what it is, Island Boy. My Toronto Maple Leafs suck. They have my entire lifetime. It is what it is. All right. Thanks for that, Island Boy. And here's hoping they can pull out game 7, but I won't be surprised if they don't, because they are the Toronto Maple Leafs. All right, next up, Freddie Uber writes, Hey, John, have you ever seen the TV show Freddy's Nightmares? Never did watch it. I'm a big fan of the Elm Street series and would love to see them remake it. Over under 35%, we will see a new version within the next 5 years. Well, don't forget, they just did a reboot of it not too long ago. And remember, and it was the guy who played Rorschach. Hold a second. It was the guy who played Rorschach in the Watchmen movie. And why am I forgetting his name? It was Jackie Earle Haley. Jackie Earle Haley played Freddy Krueger. Remember that? So they already did a reboot. Did not do well. Now, I don't remember the exact number, but let me see. It was 2010. It was called A Nightmare on Elm Street. That was the reboot, starring Jackie Earle Haley. So let me see if I can pull up a box office number here for it. Nightmare on Elm Street, 2010 box office. But I remember it did not do well. It did not do well. Let me see if I can pull this up here. Nightmare on Elm Street. I'm not seeing what year. Oh, there we go. Okay. So Nightmare on Elm Street. I mean, it didn't do horrible and not great, but it did make $63 million worldwide. 63, not great. It actually lost a little bit of money, although it could have lost more, but still not great. So I don't know if anybody's going to be lining. Listen, the one thing that it's got going for it is that Nightmare on Elm Street is still a very well-known and very beloved IP. So whenever you've got something like that they'll take another crack at it. I don't know if it'll be anytime quickly. I mean, for all I know, they're already writing a script, but I don't know if they're going to be doing it anytime really soon. Because like I said, it was just like 10 years ago that they tried it and it kind of fell on its face a little bit. Not a lot of people were thrilled with it, but yeah, maybe after the next 5 years, at some point, they will take another kick at the can. Probably. All right. Thanks for that, Freddie Uber. Next up, Ryan Butler writes, I know you think Daniel Day-Lewis is the GOAT, but I think it's Gary Oldman. Thoughts also, do you know where I can find a doc about movie trailers? There you go. No, listen, Gary Oldman's great. Don't get me wrong. Gary Oldman is great. I love Gary Oldman. I said for many years before he finally won his Academy Award for playing Winston Churchill, I said for the longest time that I think maybe the greatest actor in the world without an Academy Award might indeed be Gary Oldman. And then he won his Academy Award. So he's off that list now. Now, to me, the greatest actor in the world who doesn't have an Academy Award is Ralph Fiennes, the guy who plays Voldemort, actually, although he's been in many other much more higher profile, higher prestige roles than Voldemort. But I think he's undisputed. I think he's the best actor in the world without an Oscar right now. That being said, do I think Gary Oldman is in the same league as Daniel Day-Lewis? No. And I mean that as no shade on the great Gary Oldman, because I don't think anybody's in the same league as Daniel Day-Lewis. I really don't. I listen, I just think that guy is so damn head and shoulders above anybody else who's ever done it. You just watch any of his movies. Not all of his movies were popular. It didn't matter. You watch any of his movies. That dude could do anything and make it powerful and believable and move your soul while he was doing it. Whether he was playing a tailor or whether he was playing a historical president of the United States, it didn't matter. It didn't matter. He is just the best. Nobody else comes close. Not Pacino, not Denzel, not anybody. It's Daniel Day. He is the GOAT, the absolute undisputed GOAT. You know, he almost has like a 1-3 for every 3 movies he would appear in. He would win Best Actor at the Academy Awards just because he also was very choosy about his films. He only did 1 movie every few years. He wasn't a prolific actor like who would appear in 2 or 3 movies a year or anything like that. It's just, and whenever he appeared, it was just a given. He was going to be one of the favorites to win an Academy Award because he's Daniel Day-Lewis. You can't say that about any other actor. There is no other actor today other than maybe a Meryl Streep, but even Meryl Streep is a little bit questionable today, that just by them appearing in the movie that's coming out sometime in the future, you just assume they will be a front runner, one of the front runners for the Academy Awards. Nobody else does that. Not Al Pacino, not Robert De Niro, not Denzel Washington, not Anthony Hopkins, none of them. But whenever Daniel Day-Lewis, it got to the point that whenever it was even announced that he was going to be in a movie, the Hollywood's odds makers would already a year and a half in advance peg him as being one of the front runners for the next Academy Awards because it was Daniel Day-Lewis. So a lot of great actors. And I put Gary Oldman up there in the upper echelon. I really do. But is he in the same league as Daniel Day-Lewis was, who is now retired? No. I don't think so. It's all subjective. Of course it's subjective. But if you're asking me, which you just did, you asked me, and you asked for my thoughts, no. Gary Oldman is not in the same league as Daniel Day-Lewis. There's not many people in Gary Oldman's league, but even Gary Oldman is not up there with Daniel Day-Lewis. He is the best. He is the Bret Hart of acting, man. He's the best there is, best there was, best there's ever going to be. That I will go out right now and say there will never be somebody who is quite as good as Daniel Day-Lewis. I hope I'm wrong, but we'll find out. All right. Next up, just got a couple of minutes left here, guys. Gohan writes, "Hey, John, I recently watched a clip where a Rich Greenfield put, let me try this again. I recently watched a clip where a Rich Greenfield put a 1 penny price target on AMC. Basically, he believes it's impossible for AMC to make a profit. Is there any merit to his statement? Should movie fans be worried, pandemic or not, AMC will fail?" Well, I mean, he can say that all he wants, but as of right now, as of this moment, AMC Theaters is trading at $26.12. $26.12. So I mean, that is way up from where it was at $4. I'll tell you the other thing too. With A Quiet Place 2 coming out and hitting, almost $60 million for an opening for a little smaller budget film like A Quiet Place 2, making almost $60 million in its long weekend. And the box office itself for the first time hitting that $100 million mark, I think AMC will be fine. I think AMC will be fine. Now, I'm not saying forever. I'm not saying AMC is still going to be here 50 years from now. Don't get me wrong. But for right now, I think AMC's fine. All they got to do is get rid of that boob rabbit called, what's that jackhole's name? Aaron something or other, the CEO of AMC. Yeah, they got to get rid of that jackhole. But other than that, AMC, I think, is going to be fine. But that's just me. And by the way, BK Dan sends in a super chat badge in the live chat. Thank you for that, BK. Also, I think I might have missed that. No, I did get Skylar. Did I get Gasper Gonzalez? Yeah, I think I got all you guys who sent that in. Anyway, thank you for sending that into the super chat. I appreciate that, guys. All right. Let's keep going. Next up. Let's see. BK Dan writes, and of course, we just got a super chat badge from BK Dan. BK Dan writes, John, definitely feel you as far as shows you can only watch with a partner. I suggest Moonlight. It's about a vampire private investigator and his relationship with a human female. I've never heard of it. Everyone in it has an iPhone in 2007, starring Alex O'Loughlin before he started playing McGarrett on Hawaii Five-O. Well, I don't really watch Hawaii Five-O either, so I'm not really familiar with them. I'm not familiar with Moonlight. It sounds like a CW show, and I don't know, is it a CW show? A vampire private investigator. Sounds a little CW-ish, and I'm just taking a guess. For all I know, it was on NBC, but I'm not familiar with the show. I'm assuming this show is now done if it was out in like 2007. So, yeah, probably not. I'm going to be honest with you, BK. Sometimes a bunch of you guys bring up some shows that do spark a little bit of an interest. Not much about that sounds very interesting. Amy in the live chat is saying it was actually kind of boring. So, I mean, there you go. So, I've never heard of it, so probably going to take a pass. But thank you for at least, BK, for putting that one on my radar. I appreciate that. Now I've heard of it. All right. BK also writes, John, I recommend Moonlight series, impossible to find streaming, but definitely worth the $25 to buy the DVDs. Lasted only one season. See, here's the thing, BK. If it only lasted one season, because nobody watched it, and I've never even heard of it, is it really worth $25 to buy the DVDs? I don't know. It sounds like you just made an argument against it. It sounds like you just said, oh, yeah, Bobby, great guy. Stole all of his mother's money, crashed his car while drunk driving into a school of orphan puppies. Great guy. It's like, you just defeated. So it's like, oh man, this show that only lasted one season and nobody's heard about, totally worth $25 to buy a disc. It sounds like you kind of broke your own argument. Anyway, BK, thanks for putting that in, man. I'm just busting your balls a bit, buddy. All right, next up. Man from Manila. We'll make this the final question today. Man from Manila writes, greetings from the Southeast. I know you don't do X actor for X characters, but how about Mel Gibson as Ramirez and David Harbour as the Kurgan for Highlander? Again, I don't do X actor. And I don't. Here's the thing, Man from Manila. Why do people say, hey, John, I know you don't eat ketchup on eggs, but how would you like to eat some ketchup on eggs? John, I know you don't like doing X actor and X role thing, but what do you think about this X actor and X role thing? But whatever. Okay, so listen, to me, it's always about, are you getting a good actor? That's it. Is Mel Gibson a good actor? He's absolutely a good actor. Do I see him as Ramirez? Again, it would all come down to how they write it. Off the top of my head, I don't think I see him as a Ramirez. But if they announced him as the actor to play Ramirez tomorrow, I guess I'd be okay with it just because he's a good actor. David Harbour is Kurgan. Again, I think David Harbour is a very good actor. I even think he did a pretty good job in that horrible Hellboy movie. Do I necessarily see him as the Kurgan? It depends on how they write him. I think I could initially see him as a bit better of a fit as a Kurgan than I would as Mel Gibson as a Ramirez. But again, it would all depend on the script that I haven't read. So if I haven't read the script and I don't know how the Kurgan is supposed to come across in this movie, I can't really say if I think David Harbour's a good fit or not. But again, he's a good actor. If they were to announce him, I'd be down for it because I think he's a good actor. All right, thanks for saying that in, man from Manila. All right, next, listen, guys, they're still coming from Ryan G, Myra, Sargent, and Willow. Do not worry, we will start off with those questions on tomorrow's show. Now, because it was the weekend, we've fallen a little. We had a lot of questions coming over the weekend. We are a little bit behind, but I am not going to do a companion video today because it's a holiday here. And so I got some plans with my wife and some friends. So I'm not going to have a chance to do a companion video, but we will pick up where we left off on tomorrow's show. Make sure you join us for that. And then if we're still behind, I will be doing a companion video tomorrow night. So all you guys who send in questions, do not worry. They're getting answered properly in a video, whether it's on the show tomorrow or in the companion video. We will get caught up. Letting you know I can't do it today because today's a holiday and I got some plans with my wife. Okay, guys, but that will do it for now for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for being here, guys, and being a part of this day. We know you have a lot of other things you could be doing. The very fact that you would take a part of your day to hang out with us here, that's awesome. Thank you so much for that, guys. Thanks to Robert Meyer Burnett for bringing his glory and goodness. And a special thank you to all you guys who sent in these live questions. Number one, because you gave us great fun things to talk about. But number two, you also supported this channel as you did it. And all of us involved here at the John Campea Show, thank you guys so much for your support. Okay, guys, remember, do the four main things. Stay smart, stay safe, take care of yourselves. Please take care of the people around you. That'll do it for me for now, guys. Thanks a lot for being here. My name's John Campea. And until next time, my friends, bye-bye.